Hey, welcome to Faith and Calm. This is class number 214. And it's interesting. I was listening to something this week, and they said there's an organization in Muncie who's become extremely popular. It's called the Serenity Center because a lot of people are dealing with anxiety and troubles and worries. So I was thinking, hey, this is our approach to the Serenity Center. I should sorry if she's ever heard of the Serenity Center. So yeah, Serenity. There we go. Faith and calm.
Just to let you know, the class is in two parts. My husband gives part of the class, and then I give part of the class.
My part will be short.
Okay, go ahead.
This time. Okay, so we are now in the 3 weeks. So I thought you talk about what is the contemporary, what's happening right now, and related to what's going on. So the 3 weeks, for those who, well, we may as well spell it out. So this period in time is the time where, well, started on the 17th of Tammuz, where five calamities happened to the Jewish people over the courses of history. And this culminates at 3 weeks later with the 9th of Av, the Tisha B'Av, where also five calamities happened to the Jewish people. The 17th of Tammuz was the destruction of the tablets. Moshe came down and destroyed the tablets. There was also an idol that was put in the temple. There was also the breaching of the walls of the temple, the first temple, and there was the beginning of the destruction that went on for 3 weeks. There was also the destruction of what else happened then? Beitar is Tisha B'Av. It'll come to me. Anyway, so these 3 weeks are considered, not that something terrible is going to happen, but it's not propitious to do. There's a lot of restrictions on what you do because it is a time of historical. The mazel of the Jews is not so great, and therefore there were many many unauspicious things happened during this period of time. So the Jewish people are a little bit more anxious at this time of year because it is a bit of more serious time, and we should explain what that whole means because the Rebbe tried to give us a deeper understanding of how to look at this rather than, oh my gosh, it's everything is going south and everything is getting worse, and not, danger, 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 danger. So to put this in perspective, this is not only about a historical thing or something in the cyclic period of time of Jews, that every year we come back to the same energy, the same spiritual energy in general as Jewish people, but also on a personal level. What is it and why is it that sometimes you're on top of the world and things are going great and you're on the top of the Ferris wheel and you can see for miles and miles, and then all of a sudden things start going south and they go down and you go down, 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 down. And for some people, it's not just a Ferris wheel, it's a roller coaster. And doesn't feel very good at all. And then you have to go back up again and so forth. Why is it that way? And the answer is because that is life. It isn't always a constant positive movement, but the movements backwards are not just movements that in negative, that we're going back to the same place again, but rather it's a preparation to get to a higher location. If you want to fix up a house, you want to remodel the house, you want to do a complete remodeling, sometimes you have to destroy everything, take it all out, take all that old stuff out, and it looks like a Horban, it looks like a destruction, but actually it's for the sake of building over in a better way. So too, the setbacks in life for us are supposed to be met times where we take a reassessment and God is saying, listen, I want to get closer to you. I'm not trying to get further away from you. I want to be closer to you. And in order to do that, you can't build on an unstable platform. You've got to actually improve. You've got to actually redo things. But it's all for a positive approach to get to somewhere higher. So the period in time that we're coming into is actually part of a larger cycle of Jewish history. So I was listening to Simon Jacobson today, and he was putting it in context from a mimer from a chassid of the Alter Rebbe and of the Mittler Rebbe. His name was Hillel Paritcher, and he actually wrote a mimer. He was a chassid, but he wrote mimarim, which are Hasidic, as my wife likes to say, deep Hasidic discourses. I don't know if it's so deep. It's a very simple analogy, but it's really the foundation of how the Rebbe's looked at the world, and it's foundational to our understanding of Yiddishkeit. So if we put this all in perspective, in time, in the calendar, we have to start earlier in the calendar. We have to start at the giving of Pesach. The Jews came out of Egypt. 7 weeks later, they received the Torah on Shavuos. It was a period of time of wedding. But then, not long after that, that marriage, that beautiful marriage that started between Hashem and the Jewish people, started to unravel. And on the 17th of Tammuz, the Jews built a golden calf, and that was, in effect, looked like the destruction of that beautiful wedding. But actually, what God was laying seeds for was the regrowth, and that started again when Moshe went up and for a second time to receive the tablets. It was on he went up right away on the 18th of Tammuz. He got forgiveness from God and came down on the 1st of Elul, and he went back up again, either the 1st or the 2nd of Elul. And on Yom Kippur, he came back, and the Jewish people were remarried with Hashem. So it's actually, there's a period of time in relationships where sometimes everything is great and it's the initial marriage and everything is wonderful and you're on your first dates and everything is exciting. And then there's a certain hiccup sometime happen in the course of the relationship. And then you have to you realize that, you know what, this relationship has to go forward. We know it's the right thing, and therefore you have to pick up the pieces. And when you do that, you actually come back with a stronger connection than before. And that is what this period in time is all about. And the example that the Hillel Paritcher gave, in which the Rebbe started using in the very first Sichos, was he said as follows: sometimes use the example of a teacher and a student relationship. He says a teacher at certain times can be teaching something to the student, and he sees the student is picking things up really well, and they're really feeling like they're grooving together. And the teacher realizes, there's something I want to give to the student, and I want to give him something that's very deep and very precious that I've been thinking about a lot about before. But in order to do that, he has to sort of withdraw inside himself and think about it and how to present this deeper understanding. And when that happens, it looks like the teacher has no longer the close emotional bond with the student. He sort of has removed himself, and he's thinking and he's contemplating. And that is the first period in time. So in the Jewish calendar, we actually, if you look at the maftirs, the haftorahs, for these 3 weeks, they say that these 3 weeks are the 3 weeks of warning. The haftorahs are all about negative things. Then it's followed by the 7 weeks of consolation, and then it's followed by 2 weeks of return. And I'll explain what these three. And this is what Hillel Paritcher is explaining. The first 3 weeks, which is what we're in right now, are referred to as the times of the three attributes, the 3 midos of Chachma, Bina, and Das, of Seichel. And then the 7 afterwards are the 7 midos. And then afterwards we have the 2. We'll explain what those 2 are later. So these 3 weeks, in effect, is the teacher not really leaving the student. He's actually trying to help the student get to a higher level. But from the perspective of the student, or the perspective of the Jew, who sees that God seems distant during these 3 weeks, and it seems like a time of anxiety, and it seems like a time of disaster for the Jews, is actually the teacher trying to prepare so that they can give back on a higher level for the student later. And this is the same thing as what happened when the temple was destroyed. When the temple was destroyed, it looked like the temple was destroyed, and God was saying, I've had it with these people, and I'm going to go find another group of people. Actually, it was a time of tremendous closeness, as we know that when the enemy came into the Holy of Holies, he saw the cheruvim, the golden cherubs on top of the Kodesh Kodeshim, and they were hugging each other, because God was actually saying, this is a time of love of the Jewish people. I'm actually preparing the Jews because they aren't able to live on the level that they were before. But the next time around, it's going to be a much closer relationship. So the Rebbe really emphasizes that, you know what, we don't go la la land. Even the greatest tzaddik, when something terrible happens and somebody dies, he doesn't say, well, this is actually all turning out really good and God is really being kind to me and so forth like that. You have to realize that, yes, there are difficulties in life and there are things that are sometimes very painful, but nevertheless, we understand that, God, the teacher, whoever the relationship is, it's all really trying to prepare ourselves for getting to a closer relationship. And that is these 3 weeks where God is actually withdrawing himself, but withdrawing himself in order to be able to reveal himself in a greater way. In each of the 3 weeks, it gets a little bit more distant until we get to Tisha B'Av, where it's almost a complete concealment of godliness. Follows that the 7 weeks of consolation, where God starts revealing and starts getting closer to him in preparation for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So those 7 weeks are actually God. Each week, the Haftorahs get more and more beloved and more sweet. First, God says, Nachmu, Nachmu, I'm coming, I'm comforting you. And the Jewish people say, yeah, you're sending an angel, a prophet to comfort. We want you. So God says, no, I'm going to come myself. So each week, if you read the Haftorah, you'll see how God is actually coming closer and closer in those 7 weeks until finally we get to Rosh Hashanah, which is really the renewal of the relationship, the renewal of the marriage relationship between the Jews and God. And then there comes these 2 weeks where the Haftorahs are not about the normal parsha of the week. They're instead about doing tshuva. So what are those 2 things? Those 2 weeks are about now that God has come and done his part to get closer. We have to do our part to get closer too. So those 2 weeks are referred to as tshuva tata and tshuva ilah, the lower level of tshuva and the higher level of tshuva. And those basically in simple terms means that the Haftorahs are telling us, we have to do tshuva. But there are 2 kinds of tshuva. One of them is you basically have to clean out the shmutz. In other words, you have to examine how was I living in the course of the past year? And is there anything that needs to be fixed? And once you got the house clean, now you can then go to tshuva ilah, because actual tshuva is getting closer to God, and just getting rid of, just fixing up what has been bad is not really good tshuva. It's getting closer to him, and therefore it's realizing, that we want to have God back in our lives. And that's the higher level of tshuva, where we want to we're not talking about how bad we are. We're only talking about, how precious it is to be connected with God. So those are those 2 last weeks where we're trying to get closer to him. So all in all, we have a cycle of life, a cycle of marriage, a cycle of relationships. We're in the process of how to heal the relationship too. Yes, there is times where we mess up, and we're human beings, and that is certainly part of how we were created. But this is all about, yes, sometimes it was a setup. Like in the Garden of Eden, God actually wanted them to make a mistake in order to have a deeper relationship, because if everything was just going la la land like in the Garden of Eden, we wouldn't be able to have that thirsting and that yearning to get closer to God. So when we actually make that mistake, sometimes we actually discover how much we are in this relationship, how deep we have to, and how much we have to work ourselves. When we work ourselves, then it's no longer something as a given gift to us. It's actually something that we earned, and it becomes part of who we are. And that is the cycle of time that we are in, where we're actually learning how to work on ourselves and actually learn how much we need to be in this relationship. And it's a good way to think about all our relationships all our interpersonal relationships. And with that, I thought I would be short. So I thought I'm just going to give that over.
I don't know where all our listeners are today. Okay. I'm also going to be short, but I'm going to talk about something very important. So anyway, did you have any questions before we begin? No? Okay, good. So, here's going all over the place. I'm going to start with the 4 things that I always start with, which is number 1, we're living in a remarkable time. Why do I say a remarkable time? Because Lubavitcher Rebbe, who was never wrong about any public prediction that he made in the span of 40, 50 years, said that we are entering the time of the redemption. And he said the most things that nobody thought would come true. He said things about the Gulf War. He said things about Jews coming out of Russia. He told his people that as soon as Gorbachev took office, he told his people start building housing for the Russian Jews, and his people in Israel could not understand whatsoever. And did the Russian Jews come out? Yes, the Russian Jews came out. And many years later, somebody told this prediction to Gorbachev. Gorbachev said, I would like to meet such a man who knew more about what I would do than I knew. And okay, so anyway, so we know we're in a remarkable time. Number two, we have everything we need to now. Our souls were here. Sorry, our souls. Our souls were handpicked to be in this time, in this incredible juncture in human history, because we have an important role to play at this time. Number three, we have all the tools we need. We have the Torah, which is our guidebook. We have the mitzvahs, which are our power tools, and we have the teachings of the Rebbe, which are so current and so relevant to even the personal struggles that everybody has. And fourth, what we're doing tonight, learning about the redemption, actively speeds it up. So anyway, this past week was the Parsha of Pinchas, and the Parsha of Pinchas in 1991, the Rebbe gave a talk, and it is such a practically important. It's so practically important for me. I love this talk because it speaks directly to me. When I'm involved in Torah and in different holy things, I'm like Velcro. But in the physical world, to accomplish certain things, I could get distracted here. So the Rebbe pulls everything together, and the Sikha begins. The Sikha is talking about, there's a remarkable miracle in Pinchas, in the Parsha of Pinchas, that when the Jews were poised to enter Eretz Israel, they were poised to enter Israel, and they divided the land of Israel even before they crossed the border. They said, this is going to belong to you, this is going to belong to you, this is going to belong to you. And they did it through a lot. And there were many, many, many facets to this lottery. But one of the most amazing facets is that the ballot pieces, whatever they were, pieces of stone, pieces of parchment, whatever they were, when they came out of the box, the ballot pieces themselves spoke. And the Rebbe asks why. There were so many other ways to confirm that this is Hashem's will, that this person gets, this family gets, this and this section, this tribe gets, this and this section. Why did Hashem doesn't do a miracle for nothing. So I'm going to boil it down. And the Rebbe said that when you want to conquer something, it's very important. If whatever it is that you want to conquer, whether it's the land of Israel or a messy office, whatever it is that you want to conquer, you need, whatever's difficult for you, whatever's the challenge, you need to do it with all three soul powers that you have. You need to do it with thought, speech, and deed. So, and that's one reason why the lot had to speak, because there was thought in the lottery. They came up with a plan. They made all the things. There was action. They had the lottery itself, but they needed something. They needed speech, and the lottery itself spoke. So, and the Rebbe says that that speech is of the three powers of the soul: thought, and speech, and deed. Speech is very often a signpost of where you are, So, okay. So let's say there's a trip, whatever it is that you want to conquer. Let's say it's a particular, maybe you have a health problem or something else. It's not good enough to just like go here, go there, go here, go there. You have to think, you make a plan, and then you have to speak about the plan. And the Rebbe says that in the conquering of it says in the lottery, and in the conquering of Eretz Israel, you have to tell the thing that's being conquered, guess what? Get ready, you're going to be conquered. So whatever it is, let's say it's a health plan. You lay out your plan, in your mind, you come up with a good plan. I always write to the Rebbe and get a blessing if I have some big thing on that I want to do, and then you and then you talk about the plan. You decide this is what I'm doing, and you can say health problem, whatever it is, you're about to be conquered. Get ready, and then you follow through and you do the things that you said you were going to do. So 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 I'm gonna read to you directly from the Sikha because the Sikha is so powerful. And see, it's right here. Matas Masay. And good. So the Rebbe says that sorry, very fun. The Rebbe says that in doing these things, we become a Geula personality. We are in order. We need to, because the Geula is unfolding. We have to find the Geula in ourselves, and so we have to go forward and conquer whatever territories we have to conquer, and we have to do it by using our three soul powers. And and uh, and if something untoward happens in the process, you have to know that it is not an interruption. It is part of the march towards the good. Um, for example, October 7th, we are in the Geula. We are in the march to the Geula. Somehow, October 7th is we don't understand it right now, but it's not a withdrawal. It's not like the march got thrown apart. No, it's something, it's a totally mysterious thing to us, but it's somehow this is part of the march to Geula, march to redemption. And a person so when a person conquers his own personal things that he has to do, he is turning his world into Eretz Israel. He is making Eretz Israel out of the land of Israel out of his own life. And the Rebbe says that a person often thinks, what I'm doing is not so important. It's not, and anyway, nobody's looking at me. I'm not such an important character. And the Rebbe says, no, you Geula is comprised of what all the Jews are doing. And what you are doing is incredibly important. And in your portion of the world, everybody else's portion is included. So okay, good. So let's see. Okay. So okay. So whatever we're doing, we have to do it happily, and we have to do it, and we have to do it happily, and we have to make this plan. Now, there was a local resident here in Boston, and he had difficulties running his personal life. He was a brilliant, brilliant man. When he was a young man, he had difficulties with time management, and his name was oh my goodness, Hanoka, Dr. Hanoka. I don't know if you know him, but if any of you knew him. Oh, hi, Dina. How are you? So anyway, Dr. Hanoka, um, uh, he ended up becoming a very, very, very early Baal Tshuva. He was probably one of the first Baal Tshuva in Chabad. And he came to the Rebbe. He spoke to the Rebbe many, many, many times. And he actually was he was the first student, the first Baal Tshuva who went into one of these shivas in Crown Heights. And he spent a year there. And he decided, you know what? I love this stuff. I'm going to go on to be a rabbi. I was going to be a scientist, but I'm going to go on to be a rabbi. And he went to talk to the Rebbe about it. And the Rebbe said, no. The Rebbe said, you'll do whatever you want to do. I'm not making that choice for you, but you will serve the world a lot better with three initials after your name than with rabbi in front of your name. And the Rebbe said, I think you should go back to school and get your PhD. And Dr. Hanoka said, Rebbe, I have a confession to make. My personal life is completely upside down. He said, you have no idea how good the yeshiva was for me. In the yeshiva, we all got up at the same time. We all ate the same we all ate at the same time. We all learned at the same time. We all davened at the same time. He said it was such an amazing thing for me. When I was in college, there was no night and there was no day. I would come home from classes, we would drink beer till 2 in the morning, and then I would start to learn, and then I would pass out, and I'd wake up at 11. And he said there was no nothing, no Seder in my life. And the Rebbe told him that the Rebbe said to him, would you like to know what I do?" And Dr. Hanoga said, "Yes, I'd like to know." And the Rebbe said, in my life, if I'm doing whatever you do at 8 in the morning, do that at 8 in the morning every day. Whatever you're doing at 9 in the morning, do that at 9 in the morning, as much as you can. 10 in the morning, so that you don't have to rethink you don't have to rethink your life every day. And in this sikha, the Rebbe says, and you know, and when you're there, there's no such thing as an unimportant moment of your day. There's no such thing as something you're doing to get somewhere else. So even if in a Jew's life, you're making dinner, that's a holy thing. What's my focus here in making dinner? What do I want to do? In getting dressed, there's a holy thing. In everything, if you're focused on you and Hashem, what do you want me to accomplish in this moment? Then it's a much better system. And so and each stage you do it, you don't think about what's coming up next. For me, I have tremendous distractions that come into my head. Oh my gosh, and then I could have called her. Oh my gosh, I don't. So it happens to me all the time. So I usually, like, I'm afraid I'll forget. I have to get this thing now. I have to run to the computer. And it's a disaster if I do such a thing, an absolute disaster, because I lose all track of time. And so I have a distraction list. I write down my distractions and I put it down for an appropriate time. And I also have, even when I'm doing something, there are some things that I love so much that I overdo them, right? So I have this marvelous little thing. It's called a visual timer. And what, for example, I'm a teacher. When I prepare for school, I can, even though I prepared last year, even though I have good stuff for last year, I think, oh, it's not good enough. I could add this, and I want to do this. And so I have to set a timer and even keep holy things within a limit, because I have to keep my Seder. I have to keep my hourly plan. So the important thing to remember is that in your life, there is nothing that is not holy, and there's nothing that's not important, and in fact critical to the entire picture of the Geula. When you bring Geula into your life, you are creating Geula, you are creating redemption for the whole world. And redemption is depending on us. It's depending on us dealing with each part of our day in a Geula type of way. And when you do this, you actually bring out the Mashiach in you. So the Rebbe told us that Mashiach is already in the world. And when we work on the Mashiach in us, when we bring it out of ourselves by living, by investing importance in every moment of our day, and investing importance in every moment of our day, and not thinking about anything else. You have your plan down somewhere else. You have your schedule written down somewhere else. But when you're in this activity, you're not thinking about anything else. And you use your thought, speech, and deed. And it helps. Thoughts can go, it helps. Speech, as the Rebbe said, speech is so important to keep the person grounded. And if you say things like, I say, dumb things to myself. Okay, I'm making dinner now, and this is holy, and what do I need to think about now? And I use my speech. It's like it's a very, very holy use of speech. So anyway, a few more practical things that Eskilshumer might talk about it in another session, because he listened to an amazing class about this. But the most the most creative people in the world had a very boring schedule. They, just as the Rebbe did, they did the exact same thing every day. They even ate the same things every day. You don't have to do that, but very, very highly, I think it was Beethoven. That was his life. And write down distractions, use timers. And the most important thing about a timer is to obey it. If you start not obeying your timer, you will stop even hearing the sound of the, you'll stop paying attention to it. You won't even know it exists. The important thing about a timer is you have to obey it. If you set boundaries for yourself with seichel, before, but with intelligence, before you begin an activity, then you have to keep that boundary, because otherwise your life will be a shambles. And another huge thing is to partner with a friend, to have a power alliance with somebody else. And I just went to I got a sheitel cut this week, and I went to a hairdresser, and she's a nice Vietnamese lady in downtown Brookline, and 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 she asked me, because I'm going to be soon, I will be married for a good number of years, and she asked me, how do you do it? How do you do such a thing? And I told her that one of the things I do is that I have a chavrusa. I have a partner that I learn how to have the best marriage. We spend time talking, and we have a partnership. We have a power alliance for having a good marriage. And she was flabbergasted. But when you have something that's very important to you, like keeping a schedule or overturning your life in some way, it's very important to have a power alliance with somebody else that you respect very much, and to keep it up.
You
So
learn from a specific book, a marriage book, or you just discuss like what you think is good?
there I have a whole I have a bookshelf, a whole shelf of my book on a whole shelf of my bookcase, and I
So
have,
that's what you learn with your friend.
yeah, or we just discuss our own ideas, and
Okay, thank you.
yes, yeah, and again, to keep the to keep your schedule as routine and as repetitive as possible, because when something is repetitive, then you can fit in all sorts of, you can fit in the creative stuff. I think that uh, like I was trying to think of, I have many non-frum relatives, and they look at Yiddishkeit, they look at Judaism, at observant Judaism, and they say, why don't people want to do things in a secular Jew? Many secular Jews are, they've learned enough Torah to be very, very intrigued by it, but they can't make the move into it. Why? Because they think they're going to lose their freedom. They think that it's restricted, that they're going to lose their freedom. And if only I could explain to them that it is in these restrictions that you find your freedom. It is in the restrictions of marriage that you find marriage. It is in the restrictions of Shabbos that you find peace. It is in the restrictions on kashrus that you find internal body balance. And anyway, so to have rules for yourself, and to make those rules holy. I mean, if there's an emergency, of course you can violate everything, but to have, whatever. I'm gonna actually stop speaking, and I'm gonna turn off the recording, and so we can, if anybody wants to, we can brainstorm together. So here.